Why is having purpose at work so important?
So I would say having purpose at work, it's a bit of a no-brainer. We're in our working life, our careers could be 30, 40, 50 years long. Why wait until after you stop work and when you retire to actually find meaning by purpose? I think more and more we're seeing people kind of suffering from burnout. And a big part of that is actually that misalignment with who you are inside and what you want to give to the world, and actually maybe what you're doing in your day-to-day life. So I think having purpose at work, it's something that you need it in order to feel motivated, encouraged, and just part of like a wider society.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's a lot of research that shows it that when you work or contribute to a problem that it's bigger than yourself, then it's part of this psychological benefit of doing an act of service.
Molly is the founder of Impactic, the platform that helps teams volunteer with their skills, helping charities solve their problems in one day. With a background in strategy and impact-driven work, Molly founded Impactic to make impact clearer, more accessible, and easier to act on.
Welcome to Reinventing Capitalism, the podcast where I, Claudia Thomas, decode the success of for-profit impact businesses through the stories of their founders. Our goal is to inspire you towards a purpose-driven career, because life's too short for boring jobs and soul-crushing corporations.
Quick note before we get back to the episode. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. 2 things. The first is a huge thank you for listening and tuning into the show week after week. It means the world to me. And the second is that we are just getting started. If you enjoy what we do here, please join the 14% of people that listen to this podcast regularly and follow us on this app. I promise to do everything in my power to make this show as good as I can, now and into the future. Thank you. Molly, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Chloe. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation with you. So we can go straight to the point. You are the founder of Impactic, a company that is reinventing corporate volunteering through one day or maybe like a few days hackathons where you teach skills to these volunteers. Why is having purpose at work so important?
So I would say having purpose at work, it's a bit of a no-brainer. We're in our working life, our careers could be 30, 40, 50 years long. Why wait until after you stop work and when you retire to actually find meaning by purpose? I think more and more we're seeing people kind of suffering from burnout. And a big part of that is actually that misalignment with who you are inside and what you want to give to the world, and actually maybe what you're doing in your day-to-day life. So I think having purpose at work, it's something that you need it in order to feel motivated, encouraged, and just part of like a wider society.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's a lot of research that shows it that when you work or contribute to a problem that it's bigger than yourself, then it's part of this psychological benefit of doing an act of service.
Absolutely. It's a human nature to want to do good, be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And it genuinely feels good to do good as well. So I think it's that you can help other people, but actually it also warms your own heart as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So before Impactic, before Accenture, before you started your career, let's say, what do you think that shaped how you see work, the concept of work and impact and positive impact?
So for me, coming to Impactic, it was quite like an organic journey, and I never set out to start social enterprise. That wasn't the kind of how I started my working life, let's say. So when I go way back when I had to decide what I wanted to do at university, I think back then my version of success and what that looked like was doing a good degree, getting a quote unquote good job.
Yeah.
So I decided to do economics at uni, and I think it was interesting when I was there because I think most of my life I've kind of felt like a little bit of an outsider, and I was always like,
why?
I think I questioned quite a lot systems that are in place. And often systems that sometimes benefit me. So coming from a fairly privileged background, white, all these kind of things that actually it would be beneficial to just continue
As they are,
exactly. Like, why would you question them? But actually looking around and seeing there's so much how society is evolving, it's not necessarily a society that I want to be part of at times.
Yeah.
So I think I've always found that slight responsibility to actually kind of use privilege for good.
Yeah.
And so I went to a good university, did a good degree, but once again I just didn't feel like that's what my path was meant to be. And I remember final year university applying to loads of grad schemes, and because that's what everyone was doing. I didn't know any different. And I remember getting the call up where I was told that I'd got one of the grad schemes.
Where?
So I went to Accenture.
Okay, so that was your first job.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember just crying my eyes out because it just didn't feel right. And I was torn because I knew I should feel really grateful and it was a great opportunity. So I just, from right when my career started, I already knew that the corporate world wasn't quite for me, but I hadn't really dived into social impact. I didn't have anyone in my circles that were involved in those kind of initiatives. So I didn't quite yet know that that's what was out there and waiting for me, I guess.
Okay. And soon after Accenture, the pandemic came about. How was that transition and how did that transition change the course of your career?
Yeah, so for me, it was after graduating university, so before I started at my job, the pandemic hit. So I had my...
It was before?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2019. And then...
No, COVID was 2021. No, 2020, sorry.
2020, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I had a few months after graduating where then I was meant to start kind of my grad scheme, and then that was pushed back because of the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I was in kind of a weird limbo period where you couldn't really find another job. There weren't really many opportunities kind of around. So I decided to use that time to, I guess, like prepare myself for the world of work. I was going into a kind of general consulting grad scheme, lots of other kind of recent graduates, and I kind of wanted to differentiate myself. So I thought that I should kind of prepare myself, do a bit of upskilling. So yeah, upskilled in a few data analytics tools, which was super interesting. And then I reached out to a charity, so it's Mind, the mental health charity. It was my local branch of Mind. And I reached out to them to see how could I use the skills that I'd recently developed to support them in their challenges.
Okay, so you started working with them as kind of like an in-between situation. I mean, that seems like a catalytic point in your life because then it led to what you're doing now. What did you discover back then?
So even at the time, I didn't quite realise how profound the experience was. But what I found really interesting was that essentially they'd never really been offered that support before. And even mine, a big mental health national charity, the way that their model is, it's lots of different kind of branches. So actually each branch of Mind runs itself like a very small organisation. And actually me saying that I had certain skills, they didn't necessarily know exactly where to make the most of what I had to bring and to offer. So I volunteered with them for about 6 months, work on so many cool like mini projects. So everything from looking at the different distribution of their activities across the region that they were kind of supporting, and looking to see if it was representative of the communities. Everything from they changed their pricing during COVID, so just looking at their pricing model and trying to figure out if it was sustainable and by reducing their prices. So lots of like mini projects that was super, super interesting. But yeah, I guess it was that seed of realizing the charity sector isn't necessarily set up to do skills-based volunteering. Like they're set up, so mine is set up to do incredible work in the mental health space. So I guess there was that gap of knowing that there are people like me who want to give their skills, but not always having clear opportunities to use them effectively.
Yeah. So it seems that it lacked the structure to truly take advantage of the people that were willing to give their time to the charities. And then fast forward, you kind of brought together the world of the corporation and charities. What do you think that it's broken between these two organizations, I guess, and like why did you think of bringing them together?
So I remember when I first started, finally, the grad scheme at Accenture, I was so excited because we were all given volunteering days to use. So we were all given every UK employee at Accenture was given 3 volunteering days every year.
So you ended up working for them. So you did the 6-month break and then you worked for Accenture.
Exactly, okay. Yeah. I think it was still in that phase where I was figuring out what I wanted out of life.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a little blip and I was going to continue on this so-called journey that I thought I was meant to be on. So yeah, still continued with that plan. So started at Accenture, but recognised that we were all given these volunteering days to use. And I remember being so naive and like, this is great, me and my friends are going to volunteer all the time. I think very quickly I was humbled when I realised that volunteering time in general in organisations, it's either not used or very kind of poorly used, or if it is used, it might not always be in the most effective ways. So, for example, things like litter picking or painting fences or planting trees, like all really kind of fun group volunteering, but not actually making the most of the skills that I know that the workforce has.
It's a very good point, because after all, one of the reasons why I decided to focus on social entrepreneurship was because while foundations, NGOs, charities do very, very admirable work, they're known by their tendency of being inefficient. So like they prioritize these altruism versus like the efficiency and like the sharpness of the corporate world. And so this means that like they're gonna probably be slow in achieving their impact or their goals, and B, they always rely on external funding, and because they don't have outcome-based investment structures, then like a lot of funders don't really know where their money is going. So I think it's actually like a very good point. Like, how can we bring the strategy, the skill set, the organization, the efficiency to a world that truly, truly needs it?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, interestingly, I think there's two ways to look at that, because actually I think to flip that on its head, there's also a lot that the corporate world can learn from charities. Like the amount that the charities do being understaffed, under-resourced, under-financed, actually it's really interesting. So I think often when you put together a corporate and a charity, it's not just a one-sided model where one helps the other. It actually goes two ways. So I think that's always like a beautiful thing that I see in those kind of that ecosystem relationship, is they can both learn things from each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But from your perspective, like what I just said, right? Like the fact that like charities have this reputation of being maybe inefficient, let's say, let's use that word for the sake of the conversation. Why do you think that is? You know, like because they desperately need the skills of the volunteers, let's say, but they don't have the structure to truly, you know, like be able to embed those. From your experience volunteering, like why do you think that is?
Yeah, so fundamentally, charities are not set up to do skills-based volunteering. The structure of skills-based volunteering, it takes a lot of time to get something off the ground. And often a charity might get a grant for serving their beneficiaries in a really specific way, that actually there's no scope or no breathing room, let's say, for them to actually onboard people into their charity to support in kind of the skills-based world.
Okay. So at some point you realize about this tension, let's say. What's the key moment where you think, okay, I think it's the right moment to tackle that and to bridge the gap between these two types of organizations?
So I would say I was very much an intrapreneur that became an entrepreneur. So when I was still at Accenture and I wanted people to use their volunteering days, I wanted to use my own in an efficient way. So I reached out to a few, so I'm super interested in sustainability, so a few sustainability related charities, and set up some skills-based volunteering projects and marketed it, and suddenly loads of people in my cohort and kind of beyond wanted to get involved, wanted to use their skills for good. And actually through doing those projects, I saw the impact it was creating for the charities as well. So I think it was actually testing it out, without realising at the time I was testing out the model for Impactic. And I think because I saw how much each stakeholder could benefit from, that's what I think was the real kind of catalyst for actually saying, hang on, I understand both sides of the problem. Why not create something around this skills-based volunteering idea?
Yeah, for sure. What do you think that drove you at that moment? Was it frustration? Was optimism? Was responsibility? Was empathy?
So I think for me, what I found really interesting was it was the first time that I felt this like fire in my belly. I could see a challenge that actually I felt equipped to solve. There are so many injustices in the world that sometimes it can be really overwhelming. Everything from climate change to wars to disasters. And actually sometimes you feel like a drop in the ocean. Whereas finally I had a challenge which I could see had massive potential if you solved it. And I felt like I was the right person at the right time to take a step in the right direction.
Sometimes it's just that intuition. That intuition that you're in the right place at the right time, solving the right problem, and something just tells you that you should be pursuing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you don't need more.
Yeah, that's so true.
So for someone that hasn't heard about Impactic, what is it?
So Impactic is a social enterprise reimagining corporate volunteering. So we do these impactathons. So think like hackathon with impact, where we bring a group of really skilled employees together to solve real life charity challenges. And that can be a range of different things, from marketing, strategy, operations, anything that you use in your corporate life, you can probably apply it to the charity sector. So we run these events where they're typically one-day initiatives, where it's really high impact, super fun, kind of a workshop style feel, where each team works on a challenge that suits their skill sets to create genuine impact for a charity. So we always, the way that we create each impactathon is we have at the heart the charity, their challenges, and really crucially the deliverables that would be most useful for them post the impactathon day to actually take away and integrate back into their charity.
And do you do this per team? So let's say that you speak with Accenture and they have the marketing team, the consulting team, the data analysis team. Do you bring everyone together, or you pick up the brains of specific teams to solve specific problems?
So there's loads of different ways you can look at this. Essentially, whenever we work with an organization, we try to figure out what their business priorities are. And some, it might be they want to do a team bonding day for their marketing team, let's say. Or maybe they just want it, let's say it's near the festive period and they want a feel-good activity that brings everyone together. It can either be for the whole organization or specific departments and teams. And based on who we know we're going to have in the room, there are already predefined challenges for those skill sets. So if it's just the data team, then we might have 4 or 5 really specific niche data challenges for them to solve. Or if it's a more open for all impactathon, we'll have a marketing challenge, a data challenge, a strategy challenge.
Okay.
So it really, it means that anyone who wants to get involved can get involved, and they know that there's been a kind of challenge crafted to their skills.
Yeah. And what's the business model?
So I consider us a tiny bit like a Robin Hood type organisation, where essentially it's completely free for the charities we work with.
Okay.
And then the corporates essentially fund or kind of sponsor these impactathons. And once again, because it hits so many business priorities, it's quite interesting how we can tap into a lot of different budgets. So it could be their CSR budget, which is brilliant. Or maybe if it is one of those more kind of team bonding type days, it might be HR. Or even we've tapped into learning development budget, because volunteering and skills-based volunteering is a great way to learn new things, develop skills internally. So there's different budgets within the corporate that we tap into based on kind of what their priorities are.
Hi, can I ask you a quick favor? Every week, we dive into the stories of founders that do more than just make money. Our mission is to prove that a career in impact can be both purposeful and financially sustainable. If you believe in creating meaningful work, share today's episode with one friend who's ready to make a difference. It would mean a great deal to me. Your support is what keeps this show alive and growing.
Okay. What is the team that what is the team within the budget that you have tapped in the most? So which team does this make more sense for?
So usually we'll always speak with the CSR team, but what is a reality that we are living in is that CSR budgets are getting slashed. So quite often we'll speak with the CSR team, and then internally they will try and unlock some kind of budget somewhere.
Okay.
CSR teams, not just their budgets are getting slashed, but also the size of their teams are massively reducing at the moment. I think when there are economically it's a difficult time, that is the department or part of the company that is often deemed as the most easy to reduce in size, which is obviously a huge shame. So that's what we're seeing.
You've delivered 18 impact hackathons. So you've worked with close to 1,000 volunteers. And if I remember correctly, the pro bono value was close to 1 million. What have you learned about meaning at work? Because it seemed that you had a hypothesis at the beginning, right? This empathy that people can bring to solving bigger problems than themselves. What are 1 or 2 things that you have observed from these volunteers?
So what I love about how our impactathons work is that everyone benefits. It's kind of meant to be like a win-win-win scenario. So super interesting with the volunteers themselves. quite often at the end of the day, individuals come up to me and tell me about something really personal going on in their lives and how this impactathon happened at the right time for the right reason. So, for example, we did an incredible impactathon with Carers UK. And at the end of the day, one of the volunteers came up to me and the charity representatives that we had there on the day and basically said, throughout the impactathon experience, she realised she herself was a carer, and it just wasn't something she was aware of beforehand. So actually, through doing the volunteering, through understanding more about the charity, she's now better understood her own situation and the support that she can access as well. So that for me was so beautiful to hear. We've also had an incredible woman who had just come back from maternity leave, and she said she'd really been struggling back at work to feel like herself again. She felt like she couldn't bring value to the organisation. She felt like she wasn't who she was before she'd had her baby. And she came up to me at the end of the impactathon and basically said, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to remind myself I'm skilled, I know what I'm doing, I have so much value to bring. So it was just seeing almost like the light come back to her eyes in terms of knowing she belonged and she did have something to give and to share wider.
That seems like an enough reason for corporates wanting to help their employees, be more connected with their own like self-worth. But how do you actually sell it? Like, how do you? Does this make sense from a business perspective?
I am such a strong believer that skills-based volunteering genuinely makes good business sense. And there's different ways you can look at it in terms of employee engagement, just getting people back together. So often we do our impactathons in person, to get people back to the office in person, collaborating. Often there'll be people from different departments there, so having that like networking opportunity. So yeah, employee engagement is a great way to look at it. I know we touched on it earlier around learning development as well, having a really safe space to learn new skills, develop skills, apply skills in a different context. It's brilliant for skills development, especially for younger employees within organisations. So we've done a few impactathons specifically for graduates or interns as a way for them to give back, embed that culture, embed that giving back culture right from day one at work, but also actually crucially give them a chance to learn how to collaborate under time pressure, present to a charity or a senior stakeholder. So learning development's a brilliant one as well. So yeah, there's lots of different ways you can look at it, but I think it's from the business lens, it makes sense. People always get surprised with how much they can do in one day. So people then go back to their kind of day-to-day role and bring kind of more productivity into that space as well.
Yeah. Is there a way that you can calculate the financial cost or benefit of employee engagement or disengagement?
Yes, and it's something that's we've been trying to do over the years at Impactic, is looking more at our kind of impact measurement side of things. It's always a tricky one in terms of a lot of it is self-reported metrics.
So it's subjective.
Exactly, it can be subjective.
Okay. I'm gonna look into it because it's a very interesting topic that I would love to understand how it is quantified. I've heard you speak about the fact that corporations have untapped talent, and that's also something that's something that resonates a lot with me and with Reinventing Capitalism, because I think the project started with that premise, right? That with the fact that like there's talent that could be solving real problems, social and environmental problems without giving up their financial stability. I think like when you think of a transition, you normally think of changing jobs, right? Like in my case, for example, I try to inspire talent to take the leap and take a job at a company that solves a bigger problem, a social or an environmental problem. But you're giving them another route out, like another way out, which is you can still work for a corporate, but you can, like contribute with your skills to something that it's more meaningful. I think both are super legitimate. Whichever it is, though, you need to kind of like change your mentality a little bit, or maybe start with awareness that, like there's something more that you could be doing. What's one tangible advice that you can give to someone that feels disengaged at work? Someone feels disengaged, feels that their job doesn't give them any meaning. What's the first thing that they should do?
Yeah, like you said, you do not have to change your job to change the world. So I think it's about trying to figure out what are you passionate about and how can you integrate that into your daily life. Once again, often people, when they want to give back, they think they have to do it after work, in the evenings or at the weekends. We're super busy as individuals. There's so many different things that we're trying to juggle. So it's actually about working out in your working hours, how can you give back and how can you integrate it in a way that makes sense? So whether that's leading internally a employee resource group about something you're really passionate about, or just making the most of your volunteering time, for example. So yeah, trying to look at your 9 to 5, or often it's a lot longer than a 9 to 5, and try to figure out what are the little moments in that period where you can bring social impact in.
And now that we're talking about work, I've also heard you think about or talk about the future of work. What are your thoughts actually about the future of work?
So I think my perspective is, obviously we all know that AI is going to shift how working life is in the future, but actually there's certain elements that can never be replaced, that human side, and I think more and more that's what we need to start bringing into our working days. And once again, through my own experiences, through Impactic and the impactathons that we run, having that in-person interactions between the employees who are volunteering and the charity, seeing how they can support each other really can tangibly, I think nothing can replace that, the human side of working.
Do you think that there will or how do you think that the social enterprises or social entrepreneur or the number of social entrepreneurship companies, how do you think that will evolve in the future? Is it something that you think will have to be embedded in a company, or you think that there's still a movement, or there will be a movement where it will be kind of preventing that from happening?
So I strongly believe that we are going to start seeing more and more social enterprises coming into existence. And actually, I believe that a lot of existing organisations are going to make that shift. I think we have a responsibility in the corporate world to actually align our missions to social impact and kind of doing good. So I really hope that as a society we can all come together to recognise that if we use the power that we've got within organisations, that actually as a wider society, it creates so much more benefit, and it's something that we can all benefit from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're getting to the end of the interview, and I wanted to pick up your brains on the future and how do you think that things can evolve? I feel that once people understand what's the power of giving back, it's very hard to go back. And so I think when people experience the feeling of applying their skill sets into charity, or a project where you're really seeing how it will impact individuals, that can be a bit of an eureka moment and a bit of a moment of self-reflection. How do you think that if Impactic succeeds, let's say, and you're working with, I don't know, all corporations out there, how do you think that can change how people experience work?
So what we're seeing more is actually the organisations are internally changing their own metrics and what's important for them to track. So we're seeing that organisations are starting to, at the very start, trying to introduce volunteering days and volunteering time into their bonus metrics. So actually that's a brilliant first step to try and incentivize individuals to give back. And I think deep down most individuals do want to give back, but it's actually at the moment really hard to. There's so much choice out there. Often the onus is put on the busy employee to organise your own volunteering time, figure out what charity you want to work with and what work you want to do with them. So actually I think more and more that we're seeing that actually if the corporates can support their staff by creating these structures, then actually allows everyone to benefit, because then the volunteer can just jump into an existing initiative, and through that they feel empowered and they get the opportunity to give back.
But do you think that will make them change their career course? Like, let's say, like they volunteer with Impactic, and they realize that there's another way of working, or like to another way of using their skills. Do you see a world where that could change the path that these individuals are taking?
I hope so. I hope that individuals through volunteering can open their eyes to different career paths. I think there's so much talent that at the moment's locked in the corporate world, and if there's a way to release some of that talent and support the charity sector, then I think brilliant. But once again, like we were saying before, it doesn't need to be an all or nothing kind of scenario, and actually integrating it more into your daily role if you want to stay in that kind of corporate framework, then that could work as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's all about individuals trying to figure out what makes sense for them and what impact they want to leave on the world.
Yeah. So to finish more on a personal note, what have you learned about yourself since choosing the path of founding Impactic?
So for me, it's realizing how fun work can be and how fun it should be. I think I live in this fun little bubble where the majority of people I speak to are just genuinely incredibly kind individuals. So it's either the CSR teams within big organizations, or volunteers who want to give back already, or these charities doing phenomenal work. So I think it's being able to work with all these different stakeholders and bringing everyone together to create this like community of people who genuinely want to change and do good. So I think for me, it's been so much fun. So I think I'm realizing that it doesn't have to be work and then play. It's like, how can you actually bring that together?
Honestly, I wish that for everybody. Oh my God. This is also what changes your perspective of work, right?
Absolutely.
So as a last note, if you wanted to leave the audience with one reflection or something for them to think about or to reflect on, what would it be?
Okay, so if you are in an organization, try to figure out, do you have volunteering time to use? Often when you first sign a contract, it'll be there in the small print, but it won't necessarily be encouraged for you to actually use those days and that time. So first figure out if your organization does have volunteering already offered. And if it doesn't, reach out to the CSR team or the HR team to try and figure out, can you actually introduce it into your working policy?
Awesome. I think it's the perfect end to the interview.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Molly. As I said, I've loved coming here to the offices, like getting to know you. And I love what you're doing because I think it's a very, very smooth way for employees to literally like do what they're doing on their day-to-day, but contributing into something that makes more sense, and that it's actually, like as you said, a win-win-win situation for everybody. So like people don't even need to get out of their ways to spend one day thinking about a problem that it's not that it's not solved by their corporate employer, but rather just another organization. So I don't know, I think about Accenture and I'm like, anyone in consulting I think would really, really, really enjoy one day of working of strategizing on a project that can go such a long way. So yeah, I hope that more companies, well, I hope that with this interview we reach more companies and more people are able to join Impactic.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. And thank you for the amazing work you're doing as well. I think it's so important to have this chance to reflect on how can you reinvent systems and just reimagine what the corporate world looks like. So I think, hats off to you.
Thank you.